The House will come to order. The pledge today will be led by Ella Wagenlander, McGoffey International School, and Lucy Wagenlander, Nina Jane Wagenlander, and Isabel Bird from Isabel Bird Community School, Denver, Colorado.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Caller, please call the roll.
Representatives Arndt, Becker J, Becker K, Representative Casey Becker, do we know where? Casey Becker.
Casey Becker excused.
Brown, Buck, Buckner, Carver, Conti, Corum, Court, Danielson, Del Grosso, Dorr, Duran, Esgar, Everett, Fields, Foote, Garnett, Janal, Hamner, Humphrey, Joshi, Kagan, Kaiser, Klingenschmidt, Kraftharp, Landgraf, Lawrence, Lebsock, Lee, Lontine, Lundeen, McCann, Melton, Representative Melton, Mitch Bush, Moreno, Navarro, Neville, Nordberg, Pabon, Pedersen, Primavera, Priola, Representative Priola,
Representative Priola excused.
Will you be here at all? I'll be here after. Okay. Rankin.
Thank you.
Ransom.
I am going to ask for a moment of personal.
Rosenthal.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Rapay. Bryden. Sane. Salazar. Sias. Representative Sias. Singer. Here. Tate. Thurlow. Tyler. Van Winkle. Behill. Willett. Williams. Wilson. Windholz. Winter. Young. Madam Speaker.
Here. With 63 present, 2 excused, a quorum is present. Representative Rupe. Representative Rupe.
My apologies, Madam Speaker.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the reading of the journal from Monday, March 30th be dispensed with, and that it be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
You have heard the motion that the journal be adopted as corrected by the chief clerk. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Announcements and introductions. Representative Kraft Tharp. And members, could you please place your attention at the well and pay attention to whom is speaking? Thank you very much.
Why, thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Thank you, members, for being quiet and listening to me while I make this important announcement. The Business Affairs and Labor Committee will start today at 1:45. Please make a note. And the order of bills will be different than what's in the calendar. So the Tyler and Tate bills, 193 and 194 will go first. The Williams and Salazar bill 13. Okay, thank you so much for listening this morning. I just want to let you know that Business Affairs and Labor will be starting at 1:45 today. The order of bills will be in negotiation. Madam Chair.
Perhaps, Representative Kraft Tharp, you can update us when we close with announcements and introductions.
But having your attention this morning is really important, and I really appreciate this. Thank you.
Are there further announcements and introductions? Representative Ryden.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, remember yesterday I mentioned that you would be receiving a flyer on your desk from the United Veterans Committee of Colorado. Did anybody not receive the flyer? Their banquet is coming up on April 19th. It's a Sunday, and they start early, and they finish early. So they would really love to have you come and join them. You'll also see attached some opportunities that you might want to be involved in regarding their dinner. But over 400 veterans will be there from all over the state. It's their big, big event of the year, and I certainly hope that you will join me in attending this important dinner. Thank you.
Representative Primavera.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. For members of Public Health Care and Human Services, we will be changing the order this afternoon. We'll hear Senate Bill 178 first, followed by 1296, 1298, 1302, and 1233.
Representative Kraft Tharp, do you have an update for us?
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Good to see you this morning. Thank you, members. I'd like to let you know Business Affairs and Labor Committee will still be starting at 1:45 today. The order will be the order that is in your calendar. The Williams-Salazar 1306 bill, the McCann 1293 bill, and then the Tate and Tyler pair of bills, 193 and 194. We hope to see you all this afternoon. Thank you.
Further announcements and introductions. Representative Janal.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I just wanted to let everybody in Health Insurance and Environment know that upon adjournment, we will be meeting in room 107 to hear House Bill 1297, and that's immediately after adjournment.
Representative Young, do you have an announcement?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Appropriations members, as you look at your calendar, remember we're having appropriations Thursday morning. Please note that even though there are only 3 bills listed right now, in fact, there will be 22 bills on the calendar for Thursday morning. And so that's why we're starting at 8 a.m. Tomorrow's calendar will reflect the entire list. I just wanted to give you a heads up. Thank you.
Representative Winter, are there further announcements and introduction? And Representative Rupe.
Thank you, members. We're going to do the video first.
Oh, okay.
Today, Representative Rupe and I are excited to talk about women in politics and the historical significance they've made in Colorado to help build our state. But before we highlight a few women, I'd like to ask you...
Excuse me, Representative Winter and Representative Rupe, let me just get some order here. Could we have order, please? Would you take your side conversations outside? Please place your attention at the well. Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today, we are excited to present to you a trailer for a movie that's being made in Colorado about women in politics and what they've done for our state. And so if you can please direct your attention to the screen.
I'm proud of the fact that Colorado has done so well in having the largest percentage of women legislators. Women have been tougher out here.
There is a strong set of historical points of origin for the idea that women in this area would be stronger, more self-determining, more self-reliant.
There were huge fights in the bars when a new school teacher came to town. So they really thought, well, you know, if we give them the right to vote, all those Eastern women out there, maybe they'll all come out here and it'll even out the population and there'll be more women. The more I thought about that, I thought that just might be one of the main reasons a lot of men voted for it. Who knows?
Women came here with their families and they were 50-50 partnerships. All the women who went west you have to admire because you have to remember what the West was like at that time. It was a pretty dusty, dirty, inconvenient place to live.
There are theories around sort of the cowgirl image allows women to step out of more traditional female roles and be accepted as a leader and contributor. And how does that play out in the 21st century, if at all?
I came to Colorado, to Denver, by myself, bought a one-way ticket.
I came out here and I got off the plane and knew I was never going to leave. It was sort of a chance to reinvent yourself and grow.
I had never realized how profoundly deep the problem was of women coming to full citizenship and full participation in a vibrant and healthy civil society.
We had enough women at that time that it was a critical mass, and we stopped some things, bad things as far as women were concerned.
What bothers me is we haven't had any U.S. senators that are female or governors.
And women tend to wait. We tend to think, oh, I need my master's, or I need a few more years of experience.
We do seem to be much more fearful of putting women in an executive position.
We had early women in the legislature, but there's old Wyoming up here that's had a governor, and women, I don't know.
We don't know, we're just exploring it.
Well,
one of these days it's going to happen.
There's this idea that women lead in a different way. They bring different leadership qualities to the table.
Being a woman makes a difference in terms of how you think about different policies and how they will affect people.
You are who you are. And if you're true to yourself, you're going to carry legislation that reflects who you are.
I love people and I love the interaction, and I wanted to help. I wanted to serve.
The other 90 legislators don't see it my way all the time, but I'm ready to sit down and work it out. When the going gets rough, they know I'm not the weak sister.
You have to be strong. You have to appear strong. I absolutely refused to ever have a tear when I was on the floor.
There are a slew of women who are past legislators who we have the opportunity to capture their oral histories. We have the opportunity to hear from them what their experience was and what value they saw.
We're excited to show you that trailer today, and we have the two filmmakers, Meg Froelich and Laura Hopner, over here who have done all the research on women in politics building Colorado. just briefly, we want to quickly highlight 3 women that we feel especially influenced Colorado women in politics. And we'll start with Representative Pay.
Thank you, Representative Winter. So women in politics and government, we had Wyoming was the first state to grant suffrage to women in 1890, and Colorado was second, granting the right in 1893. Colorado was the first state to elect women to its legislature in 1894, decades before women even had the vote. So let's start with Carrie Clyde Hawley. She was born in 1857 and was an attorney from New York. There goes another glass ceiling, who came to Colorado in 1889. She married Charles F. Hawley, who had been Speaker of the House in the territorial legislature's first session, September 9, 1861 in Denver. So Carrie Hawley was among the 3 Colorado Republican women who became the nation's first women legislators, each serving only 2 years in the Colorado House, 1895 to 1896. Clara Cressingham and Frances Klock were the other 2 successful Republican candidates. Carrie Clyde Hawley was the first woman legislator to introduce a bill, making Carrie Hawley the nation's first woman to do so. This is kind of difficult to read, isn't it? So Hawley was focused on suffrage, sex discrimination, and crime bills, and she introduced 14 bills. She worked on many gender issues. Fathers were favored in the era's legal system, and she worked to give a woman the chance to have custody of their own children. And another fight was to raise the age of consent, the age at which a man can legally argue that a woman consented to sex. In Delaware at the time, it was age 7. Colorado was the more reasonable at 16, but Hawley worked to raise it to 18. So there you go with a little bit of tidbit on Colorado and Republican legislators.
Hey. And it's my honor to talk a little bit about Polly Baca, who happens to be here today. Senator Baca, if you could please stand. Polly Baca was the first Latina to serve in the state Senate, but she was actually nationally the first Latina to serve both in a House and Senate. And so she definitely blazed the trail for many of us that have followed her. She worked hard on everything from economic development to equal pay, and she went on to have a fantastic career working for presidents and in the administration, and has definitely left a stamp on our country. So thank you, Senator Baca, for everything you've done.
Members, thank you so much.
Representative Patterson.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was excited to start talking. Members, I'm very proud to stand here today to honor an incredible woman and leader who is here with us today, former Lieutenant Governor and Denver School Board member Barbara O'Brien. Barbara has a very long list of accomplishments, and she reminds me that I too one day will have a lot to look back on and be proud of. She was a speechwriter for Governor Lamb, president of the Colorado Children's Campaign for 16 years, lieutenant governor for 4 years, and is currently the president of Get Smart Schools and Denver School Board member. She is married to her middle school sweetheart, Rick O'Brien, and is the proud mother of her 2 sons, Connor and Jared. When I ask Barbara what accomplishments she is the most proud of, it's no surprise that it's focused on early childhood education, expanding the Colorado preschool program in full-day kindergarten. She has always been a fierce advocate. I had the opportunity to work with Barbara almost 2 years ago, and I can confirm that she's incredibly intimidating to speak to and also work for. She expects the absolute best from everyone that she works with, and meeting those standards can be a little intimidating. These are all things that many of you already know about Barbara, but I want to tell you a few things that you may not know. She is one of the most loyal and caring and passionate people I have ever met, and once she lets you in, you will always be in her life. People have said that she looks like she could be my mom, and I said I'm ready to sign the adoption papers. She's an incredible woman who has blazed the trail for so many of us, and I'm so lucky to know her. Barbara, thank you for everything you've done for Colorado kids, and for inspiring so many women. Thank you for being with us today.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, I just want to thank you all for your participation in recognizing Women's History Month. Today is the last day of March, meaning the last day that we are recognizing the contributions of women in the chamber. And we did this a little bit differently this year, but it's so great to see Republicans and Democrats coming together to try and make sure that we continue to break every glass ceiling and see more women in politics, government, and business. So thank you so much for your participation.
Are there further announcements and introductions? Representative Everett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I request as a matter of personal privilege, an opportunity to address the body.
Personal privilege is granted.
In compliance with House Rule 22A, this concerns the integrity of the institution and the rights of its members. Madam Speaker and members of this hallowed body, we were all duly elected by the citizens in our respective districts. Each state representative who serves in this body has all the rights and privileges of any other member. And we are solely accountable to citizens that elected us to represent them in the legislature. The citizens of our districts are the ultimate arbiters of whether we serve or will continue to serve. Some of our former colleagues were not reelected and did not return to this body. Some of our former colleagues in the upper lower chamber were recalled by the citizens who initially elected them. So when leadership in one party decides to usurp the will of the people by limiting a duly elected representative's ability to serve, it violates the will of the people. I think that one of our members is being punished by being taken off of a committee for what he said outside of this chamber, outside of this building for that matter, in a non-legislative capacity. Not only violates the will of the people, but sets a dangerous precedent for all of the members of this body. Make no mistake, I in no way, shape, or form condone or endorse the statements of this member. However, I will defend his right to make these statements, as I would any member on either side of the aisle, as we all should. If this precedent is set, where any member will be punished for exercising his or her right of free speech, especially outside this building, even though it may be insensitive or unpopular, this precedent will have a chilling effect on free speech of any and all members of this body. This precedent will affect the rights of each member. Our rights need to be protected, and I hope this body will not let this precedent be created or let it stand. It is a duty of the voters who elected the representative to mete out punishment if they see fit. It is not the role of leadership of either party to punish just to do damage control or save face. Members, I hope you'll stand with me and maintain the institutional integrity of this hollow body and not let this precedent of suppressing the speech of any of all members stand. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, fellow members.
Representative Singer. Representative Foote.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Foote and I have a serious but hopeful announcement to make today. We are joined by members of our local Longmont law enforcement, emergency first responders, and dispatchers today. In the wake of the horror of more than one terrible event, I thought it was only appropriate to invite them down. You know, we had two responding officers, Officer Sawyer and Officer Piotrowski, who within its 16-hour time frame were responding officers to a murder-suicide and then came to help Michelle Wilkins in her hour of need. And I just wanted to share with you a couple thoughts, and then Representative Foote wanted to do so as well, and then we have a tribute to be read. With both of these incidences, with both of these tragic incidents, you feel helpless in these situations until you realize who's actually out there to help you. When Officer Piotrowski poked his head in to see Michelle Wilkins for the first time, you know, his heart sunk, and he'd never seen a scene more grisly even after coming from a almost equally horrible scene. And he and his responding officers stayed with Michelle and held her hand and reassured her. And the interesting thing is we laud our officer's strength. They took the time to laud her strength in being able to eventually apprehend the perpetrator and ultimately re-nurse herself back to health. Imagine receiving a phone call as a dispatcher like Beth Kemper did, where you hear these slurred, desperate words, "She cut me, please, I'm downstairs, I'm bleeding." And time again, the dispatcher, Ms. Kemper, saying, "Stay on the phone, stay with me, don't go to sleep. You stay on the phone with me, you stay with me. Get a towel on your wound." Within 6 minutes, or just a little bit under 6 minutes, our officers were able to respond and help Ms. Wilkins. And while the victims were not able to join us today, even those that survived, they have shared their positive thoughts with us today. But I wanted to close with just three things. When one of the officers was asked about what this meant to him, what this bond was going to be, he said, "That's why we're here. We're here to stand between the victims and the pure evil of the world. We're the ones that have already gone through some things, and I don't mind sharing that burden with them." Being able to go into that room and take some of that load off of Michelle, and to be able to run with that for the rest of our lives with her, she's not the only one that carried that burden. That's why we're here. And Michelle's baby was named Aurora. For those of you who don't know, my dad is a space physicist, and so I spent a lot of time learning about Aurora in general. And here's the thing about the word Aurora is we don't actually know a whole lot about the nature of Aurora. But back in 1859, there was a very strange solar event that actually powered a telegraph machine between Boston and Portland, Maine, and two telegraph operators with their actual power source shut off were able to communicate with each other. And it kind of reminds me that maybe there's another Aurora out there, and Michelle will be able to talk to her Aurora as well without any kind of man-made power. I just want to close by saying that in the wake of these kinds of horrible events, I'm reminded of something that Mr. Rogers once said. When he was a kid, his mom told him, when these things happen, look for the helpers. Whenever tragedy happens, it's the helpers that come out. It's the helpers that stand up. It's the helpers that give us hope and provide us life. And so today we're here to thank the helpers and thank you for reminding us that there are good people out there, and that in the wake of such horrible and horrific events, that there are helpers out there ready to stand up. And just as Ms. Kemper said, stay with me, I want you to know that we're here with you in the wake of these horrible events, because we know what you've seen now. We know what you've experienced, and we're going to stay with you in these tough times, just as you've stayed with us.
Representative Foote.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members of Longmont Police, Longmont Fire, and other first responders are here. And they've had a rough go of it over the last couple of weeks for multiple tragedies. And I just wanted to say thank you for what you do. We don't say that enough to our first responders and law enforcement and fire folks that are there to protect us and do the good work that we need them to do. And I just think that we should do it more often, and I'm glad that you're here that we can say thank you in person. We want to thank you for being there when the community and victims are in need. We want to thank you for taking care of us. We want to thank you for rushing in when others are rushing out. We want to thank you for doing what you do every day, and unfortunately you have to deal sometimes with the worst of the worst and deal with people that are in a terrible situation and deal with terrible things, and you have to take that home with you at the end of the day sometimes. And you keep coming back and doing it again and again because you have a sense of community and a sense of duty. And we just really wanted to make sure that you knew that we appreciated that, the community appreciates that, and I'm sure that this body appreciates that as well. So thank you for being here, and thank you very much again for everything that you do.
Representative Singer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We have members of Longmont Dispatch, emergency first responders, and law enforcement here today. And if it's appropriate, I'd love to hear our reader read a sincere tribute that we had drafted up for them.
State of Colorado, the House of Representatives, convened in the 70th General Assembly, hereby extends sincere commendations to the Longmont Department of Public Safety. The members of the Colorado House of Representatives are proud to commend and thank the dispatchers, officers, and first responders of the Longmont Department of Public Safety for their compassionate response to the Martinez and Wilkins tragedies. We join with the citizens of Longmont in acknowledging the horrific nature of these events and their effect not only on the victims of the crimes, but also on those who answered the call of duty and rose above it. On request of Representatives Jonathan Singer and Mike Foote, given this 31st day of March, 2015, State Capitol, Denver.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for reminding us that there's still good in the world and that there are still good things to do. And in these tough times that we face don't nearly match the tough times that you face every day. And hopefully I will continue to bring that in my heart and my work. And thank you again for your attention and your time today.
Are there further announcements and introductions? Seeing none, Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to proceed out of order for the immediate consideration of HJR 1018.
The motion is to proceed out of order for immediate consideration of HJR 1018. Seeing no objection, we will proceed out of order for consideration of HJR 1018. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of HJR 1018.
House Joint Resolution 1018 by Representatives Pabon and Duran, also Senator Guzman, concerning recognition of Cesar Chavez Day and honoring Dolores Huerta.
Mr. Speaker Pro Tem and Madam Majority Leader, the power team up there.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I move House Joint Resolution 1018 and ask that it be read at length.
Whereas Cesar Estrada Chavez was born on March 31st, 1927, on a small farm near Yuma, Arizona, and was raised by migrant farm workers. And whereas during the Great Depression, Cesar Chavez's father lost his small farming business, and they, like many other families, became migrant workers. They joined some 30,000 workers who followed the crops from Arizona into Southern California. And whereas Cesar Chavez left school after the 8th grade to labor in the fields and vineyards of the Southwest to help support his family. And whereas in 1944, at the age of 17, Cesar Chavez joined the Navy and served his country. And whereas after experiencing years of discrimination and unfair working conditions, Cesar Chavez dedicated his life to improving the plight of farm workers through struggle, sacrifice, and self-denial. And whereas Cesar Chavez formed his own organization in 1962, the National Farm Workers Association, which later became the United Farm Workers of America, to help farm workers like himself win equal rights and fair treatment. And whereas when recognizing Cesar Chavez, it is only right to recognize the accomplishments of UFW co-founder Dolores Huerta for her work on behalf of farm workers. And whereas Dolores Huerta brought forward a unique voice on behalf of women to ensure all workers had fair representation. And whereas in 1965, Cesar Chavez led a strike of California grape pickers to demand higher wages and urged all Americans to boycott table grapes as a show of support. And whereas Cesar Chavez believed in the principles of nonviolence practiced by Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and used tactics such as boycotts, marches, strikes, and fasts to lead a successful 5-year boycott that gained millions of supporters and new members for farm labor unions across the United States. And whereas by 1970, Cesar Chavez and the UFW had persuaded grape growers to accept union contracts and had successfully organized almost the entire industry. And whereas during a fast in 1972, Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta coined the phrase "Si se puede," which in English means "yes, it can be done," reflecting their conviction that failure happens only by giving up on nonviolent tactics. And whereas the work of Cesar Chavez was informed by his devout Catholic faith, and he traditionally included images of Our Lady of Guadalupe at marches and demonstrations, and led supporters in praying the rosary. And whereas in 1975, Cesar Chavez and the UFW's efforts resulted in the California Agricultural Labor Relations Act, a groundbreaking law protecting the right of farm workers to unionize. And whereas Cesar Chavez tirelessly devoted himself to making all people aware of the struggles of farm workers and their need for better pay and safer working conditions. And whereas Cesar Chavez and the organization he co-founded with Dolores Huerta, the UFW, achieved the following: the first collective bargaining agreement between farm workers and growers in the continental United States, the first union contracts requiring rest periods, clean drinking water, hand-washing facilities, and protective clothing against pesticide exposure, the first ban on pesticide spraying while workers were in the fields, and the first ban on DDT and other dangerous pesticides, the first and only performing pension plan for retired farm workers, the first union contracts regulating safety and sanitary conditions in farm labor camps and banning discrimination in employment and sexual harassment of female workers, abolition of the use of the infamous short-handled hoe that crippled generations of farm workers, and extension of state coverage under unemployment, disability, and workers' compensation to farm workers. And whereas on April 23, 1993, Cesar Estrada Chavez died peacefully in his sleep in San Luis, Arizona. And whereas in 1994, President Bill Clinton posthumously awarded Cesar Chavez the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor in the United States. And whereas Cesar Chavez influenced and inspired millions of Americans to seek social justice and civil rights for the poor and disenfranchised in our society. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the House of Representatives of the 70th General Assembly of the State of Colorado, the Senate concurring herein, that we, the members of the General Assembly, honor a man and woman who devoted their lives to improving the working conditions, safety, and dignity of so many on the day that the entire state observes as Cesar Chavez Day, March 31st, 2015, while recognizing Dolores Huerta. Be it further resolved that copies of this joint resolution be sent to former State Representative Fran Coleman, former State Representative Val Vigil, former State Senator Polly Baca, former State Senator Rob Hernandez, former State Senator Abel Tapia, the family of former State Representative Frana Mace, each member of Colorado's congressional delegation, Dolores Huerta of the Dolores Huerta Foundation, Dr. Ramon del Castillo, co-founder of the Cesar Chavez Peace and Justice Committee and professor and chair of the Chicana and Chicano Studies Department at Metropolitan State University of Denver, Woodbury Library in Denver, the members of the Pueblo City Council, Cesar Chavez Academy in Pueblo, Denver Mayor Michael Hancock, and the members of the Denver City Council in recognition of their efforts to promote Cesar Chavez Day.
Representative Pabon.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, you may be seated. Members, today we celebrate Cesar Chavez Day, March 31st, 2015. And this Cesar Chavez Day is particularly memorable, is particularly important, because as you heard last week here in the well, we lost one of our colleagues, Frana Mace. Frana Mace and Rob Hernandez. Senator Hernandez is here in the chamber with us. We'll introduce them later. Both were the prime sponsors of the Cesar Chavez Resolution 99043. And so before we get started, we do want to recognize that effort. And so, Madam Speaker, I move L001 and ask that it be displayed.
The motion is to pass Amendment L001, and it is properly displayed. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Again, this is a recognition that both Senator Rob Hernandez and Representative Frana Mace were the prime sponsors of Senate Joint Resolution 9943, recognizing Cesar Chavez Day, so that we may honor it today. And we wanted to recognize that as part of this resolution and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion on Amendment L001 to H.R. 1019? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That amendment passes. Representative Pabon.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And so, members, now that we have that amendment, we can begin the proceedings here. You know, as I've been thinking about the past few weeks, past few months, past few days, there's a lot that's happened since we've had this last proclamation, not just the passing of our dear friend Frana Mace, but we've also had the opening, a celebration of the Corky Gonzalez Library on the west side of Denver. There's a lot to celebrate over the course of this last year. And it makes you kind of think about the people who came before us, our heroes. And so I've thought about what a hero is in our history. And as I've studied our history books and looked at the struggles that all of us have faced, you recognize that a hero is not an extraordinary person who does extraordinary things. A hero is an ordinary person who does extraordinary things. That was Cesar Chavez in the golden fields of California, an American hero who discovered his mighty voice. Today, we honor Cesar Chavez and his lifetime of work to make our country more free, more fair, and more just. And we affirm the timeless belief he embodied that those who love their country can change it. A son of migrant workers and a child of the Great Depression, Cesar Chavez believed every job has dignity and every person should have the chance to reach beyond his or her circumstances and realize a bright future. When no one seemed to care about the farm workers who labored without the most basic protections and for meager pay to help feed the world, Cesar Chavez awakened our nation to their deplorable conditions and abject poverty. Injustices he knew firsthand. He organized, protested, fasted, and alongside his friend, Dolores Huerta, founded the United Farm Workers. He grew a small movement to a 10,000-person march and eventually a 17 million strong boycott of table grapes, rallying a generation around La Casa and forcing growers to agree to some of the first farm worker contracts in history. Guided by a firm commitment to nonviolence in support of this righteous cause, he never lost faith in the power of opportunity for all. Cesar Chavez knew that when you lift up one person, it enriches a community. It bolsters our economy, strengthens our nation, and gives meaning to the creed that out of many, we are one. As we celebrate his life, we are reminded of our obligations to one another and the extraordinary opportunities we each are given to work towards justice, equal opportunity, and a better future for every one of our brothers and sisters. I rise in strong support of this resolution with my friend and colleague, the Majority Leader, Representative Durand, and turn it over to her for her remarks.
Representative Durand, Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is a great honor to bring forward this resolution with my friend and colleague, Representative Pabon, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. You know, I've thought a lot as well about the last several years and having the great opportunity to be in this chamber and be able to serve with all of you. And I often think about how I ended up being in this role and advocating for some of the work that we've advocated for down here. And I often remember a time, and it's a story that I've told some of you before, when I was 15 years old, and I traveled to a small town in Watsonville, California. And for those of you who have never been to Watsonville, it's an agricultural town. There's lots of strawberry fields where workers are in the fields for hour upon hour. And at the age of 15, I went with a group of students. And when we arrived to the small town, we went there because we were trying to give a voice to the voiceless, give a voice to strawberry workers who were trying to organize into the United Farm Workers of America to be able to have access to a livable wage, to be able to have access to health care, to be able to have access to some sort of retirement. And for women, the stories of the women in those fields, I will never forget. Women who were struggling with how they would have a voice against sexual harassment and abuse and women and men who wanted to be able to go to work, play by the rules, and be in a safe working condition. And at the age of 15, when we arrived to this small town of Watsonville, California, there were thousands and thousands of people who were there, who were marching on behalf of workers and giving a voice to the voiceless. And it is a memory that always stuck with me because it was around that time that I started to get more involved with issues that affected the community and had a deep appreciation of community service. And it is those days that remind me how much more we have to do to continue to fight for the middle class, to build upon the foundation of America so that regardless of where someone is from or regardless of their background, that everyone has access to the American dream. That is what Cesar Chavez fought for. That is what Dolores Huerta fought for, is a foundation that there should be economic opportunity for all, and that the voice of the worker is just as powerful and meaningful as the voice of the business owner. So I thank you for bringing this forward, and I thank for all of our guests for being here, and I know you're going to be recognized in a little bit because we know that now in the year 2015, I wish that we would have had all of these issues resolved, but we have so much more to continue to work on together and to march forward for in the future, and I look forward to working with all of you on those issues. Thank you.
Representative Esgar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I rise in full support of this resolution today. You know, being from Pueblo, I think I've had the distinct privilege to grow up learning the history of Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta. You know, coming from our organized labor background in Pueblo, I always knew the significance and the importance of both of these strong leaders. As a community organizer who worked on social justice issues, I learned just how deeply and intensely both Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta worked for everyone. I am honored to be from Pueblo, where we have a school named after Cesar Chavez and a school named after Dolores Huerta. We also have Highway 47 has just been renamed in honor of Cesar Chavez. So it's an honor to be in front of you today. I was just joking with Representative Pabon. It was 1 year ago today. He brought me here onto the floor, just like you all today, to be here for this important day. And I can't tell you what an honor it is to be able to be standing in this well as a representative, thanking you all for being here today with us. So I rise in strong support of this resolution. Thank you.
Representative Salazar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Speaker Pro Tem, Majority Leader, for bringing this resolution. You know, the history of this, of having honor Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta, it's not just about honoring two individuals, but what they represented. They represented something that, up until that point, had been silenced, and that was their voice. The voice of a community, a voice that had been silenced for far too long. It was a silencing of a community that helped build this nation too. As we honored Ag Day just a couple of weeks ago here, I stood up quite purposefully and I said we need to honor the migrant worker, the migrant farm worker who helps with the crops, who helps with the cattle, who helps with the day-to-day life of running a farm. I think I was the only voice that said, let's honor the migrant worker, because we didn't have that in the resolutions themselves. That's what it takes to build America. Those kinds of things. Of people who will break their back in very hot weather, things that we would not do ourselves in order to put food on the table for everybody, cheap food on the table for everyone. So honoring Cesar Chavez and honoring Dolores Huerta is honoring the crying out of a voice, of people saying, we are here too. As much as you want to silence us, or as much as you want to put a blanket over our community and pretend that we don't exist, we do. It was about saying, because we exist, we're entitled to certain rights. As we pick your grapes, we don't want the airplanes flying over us, spraying pesticides and herbicides on us that result in the deformity of our newborn children. We don't want sexual harassment of our women as they are picking crops for you. It's about saying we want to have fair work hours, and we also want to get paid fairly for the labor that we do for you and for the rest of the nation. That voice resonated throughout the rest of the country. And because of what they did, we saw leaders rising throughout the Southwest, such as Rodolfo Corky Gonzalez, such as Reyes Lopez Tijerina, Jose Angel Gutierrez, and so many others who rose up and said, we have voice too, and we have something to say. And that led to something very powerful when people were able to speak their voice. That led to the election of public officials like my mentor, Polly Baca. I've known her since I was a little kid, went to school with her daughter. And so many others, Rob Hernandez, and so many others who came along the way. And I dare say that it's incumbent upon us to be able to say, as Representative Joe Salazar, as the Majority Leader Crisanta Duran, as the Speaker Pro Tem Dan Pabon, as the Assistant Majority Leader Dominic Moreno, as Representative Ed Vigil, and the members of the Senate, that we would not be here had it not been for that voice. We would not be here had it not been for Polly Baca breaking so many barriers, not just breaking them, shattering them, making sure that they never come back again. We would not be here. We always talk about standing on shoulders of giants. There's our giants. Thank you.
Representative Fields.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is an honor to stand here in support of House Joint Resolution 1018. I want to thank our Majority Leader Duran and our Speaker Pro Tem Pabon for providing this opportunity for us to talk about that farm worker, that labor leader, that civil rights activist. I stand on those shoulders. And I believe that I'm here today because he fought for not just those farm workers. He made sure that there was opportunities for all of us. So when I think about Cesar Chavez, I think about three things. I think about history, I think about heritage, and I think about legacy. And that's what we're doing right now, is we're carrying on his legacy. And there's overflow as it relates to his legacy, because we have the work of Corky Gonzalez. We're carrying on his legacy as well. These folks were civil rights icons who gave voice to the poor and for those who are disenfranchised every day in the workplace. So the struggle continues for us. The struggle continues because we have far too many people who are working and they're not getting equal pay for equal work. The struggle continues. We still have workers who are working in conditions that are not safe. We need to make sure that we provide safe workplaces and environments for workers. We still have work to do, colleagues. Let's continue that voice. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker Pro Tem, Representative Pabon.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, members, for speaking on this resolution. You know, the one last thing I will say, and I don't want to forget, and it's important because it just happened this weekend, you know, Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta are still with us, and we still channel them in the work that we do every day. the Corky Gonzalez Library is an important landmark on that journey. Took many, many years and many, many battles to get that job done. And likewise, this weekend, there was an unveiling of a bust of Cesar Chavez in Cesar Chavez Park on Saturday, 41st and Tennyson, House District 4. And it was Dr. Ramon del Castillo who led that effort, along with many others of the Peace and Justice Committee. And Dr. Castillo said something very important. He said, this journey to unveil this bust and get this statue erected took many years, 4 years to do. We could have gone to corporate donors, and we probably could have gotten this funded in weeks, months, or weeks. But this is Cesar Chavez. We did this from the grassroots. We raised this money $1, $2, $5 at a time. And it took us a long time to raise the money for this, but si se puede. We did. And so we celebrated that on Saturday, the unveiling of that bust, and many people in this chamber were there as well. And so this celebration continues. We don't just have the worst thing we can do is just have Cesar Chavez Day today. The best thing we can do is to celebrate all of our American heroes every day and make sure that we remember Cesar and Dolores and so many of those who came before us every single day, not only in the community, but here in this building. Because ultimately, that's what we're elected to do, is to represent the people of Colorado and to represent those who aren't represented, those who don't have a voice, those who need our help more than ever. That is what our calling is, and that is what this resolution is about.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, we have such an incredible wealth of community leaders that are here with us today. And there's many of you, so I cannot name all of you, but I just want to say thank you for your leadership. And I would be remiss if I did not mention specifically Nita Gonzalez and Rudy Gonzalez, the children of the late Corky Gonzalez, for all of your leadership and commitment to continuing to bring forward the issues of equality in education, the economy, the government, and so many different areas. Members, please help me in thanking our guests for being here today.
Will you do, we need to pass the resolution and then we can, yeah, thank you. Is there further discussion? The question before us is the passage of the adoption of HJR 1018. A roll call vote has been requested. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Close the machine. With 61 ayes, 3 noes, and 1 excused, HJR 1018 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Representative Pabon, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And we do have some elected officials and special guests in the room. Councilwoman Debbie Ortega, representing Denver, Senator Polly Baca, Senator Rob Hernandez. I think that's all the electeds. Let's give them a round of applause.
And thank you both for your service in the House as well. Thanks. Please proceed, Representative Pabon.
And then, as the majority leader already suggested, the Gonzalez family, Nita and Rudy, Marguerite Salazar well, she does many things, including run our Division of Insurance, members of the Colorado Hispanic Bar Association, representatives, and many others, including Sister Molly Munoz, who still fights the Cesar Chavez cause with migrant farm workers in northeastern Colorado, and Richard Pabon, who fights for his son down here at the State House, my father. Sister Molly Munoz is my aunt as well, so they're both here. So all of them are guests of this resolution. Give them a round of applause.
See no further introductions. We will proceed with third reading, final passage. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1300.
House Bill 1300, Representatives Moreno and Melton, also Senator Merrifield, concerning the repeal of the prohibition on local governments enacting minimum wage laws.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1300 on third reading and final passage.
The question is the passage of House Bill 1300 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no discussion, Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Close the machine. With 34 ayes, 30 noes, and 1 excused, House Bill 1300 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of HCR 1001.
House Concurrent Resolution 1001, Representatives Melton and Moreno, also Senator Merrifield, submitting to the Register of Electors of the State of Colorado amendment to the Colorado Constitution concerning the increase in statewide minimum wage in connection with raising the minimum wage to $9.50 on January 1st, 2017, $10.50 on January 1st, 2018, $11.50 on January 1st, 2019, and $12.50 on January 1st, 2020.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of HCR 1001 on third reading and final passage.
The question is the passage of HCR 1001 on third reading and final passage. Representative Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, members. We had a very thorough debate on this issue yesterday, and I don't want to rehash some of the debate that happened yesterday, but I do want to make some closing comments. Colorado's current minimum wage of $8.23 an hour is not a living wage. In fact, it's not even a minimum wage. It's a starvation wage. Costs are going up: housing, transportation, food, and wages aren't keeping up. There are people living in Colorado working full-time, 40 hours a week, sometimes multiple jobs, and still living in poverty. Programs like Medicaid, food, energy, and housing assistance were always meant to be a safety net, there for temporary assistance when people fall on hard times. That's not the case today. These programs have become taxpayer-funded subsidies for employers that don't pay their workers enough to live on. It's wrong. and we have the opportunity today to do something about it. Regardless of your personal feelings on raising the minimum wage, HCR 1001 simply gives voters the chance to weigh in and decide this issue. Give voters that opportunity. Pass HCR 1001.
Representative Melton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And based on the last vote, I think I have an idea of the fate of this resolution, but before we get there, I wanted to take this moment on third reading to appeal really to the members of this body. Over 2/3 of all Coloradans support raising the minimum wage because they understand that $8.23 is not enough. This includes Democrats and Republicans. We can help over 600,000 Coloradans that are home health care workers, that are housekeepers, that are adults struggling to provide for their families. This morning in the prayer, we were asked to help the most vulnerable and the least among us. Let's pass this resolution. Resolution, not a bill, a resolution that allows the people to have a chance to weigh in. Let's allow the people to have a voice. But before they can use their voice, let's use our voice here. Let's pass Resolution HCR 1001. Excuse me.
Is there further discussion? Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Or Madam Speaker, sorry, it's been a long morning
I
already.
know some days I look worse than others.
You know, and I'm not going to come up here and argue with my colleagues about the struggles of a lot of folks that are out there in Colorado. The reality is, I'm not blind to it. I see it. I know there's folks that are out there struggling to pay their bills, and they're struggling to get by and living paycheck to paycheck. But we heard that a lot of the reason for that is costs are going up. Well, let me point out what this would do if this was to actually get on the ballot and pass. You would take wages that are out there and do over a 52% increase to wages. And a lot of the businesses out there, when you have almost 50% of your cost as a business is labor and payroll taxes, what do you think is going to happen to costs out there? Businesses cannot absorb a 50% increase in 50% of their costs. They cannot do that. So Representative Moreno talked about how basic necessities are getting expensive. Well, what do you think is going to happen to those basic necessities? They're going to go up. That daycare is going to go up. It's going to be more expensive to take your kid there and get them care. Representative Melton talked about home health care workers. Well, what do you think that's going to do to the cost of home health care? It's going to make that go through the roof. Hospitality workers in restaurants. What do you think is going to happen to these restaurants when half of their costs all of a sudden go up by 50%? Guess what? It's going to cost you a lot more to go out and do that. Cost of energy. We heard that was a problem for low-income folks. What do you think is going to happen to the cost of energy if labor goes up by over 50%? Services of any kind, basic necessities, food, will all cost more. Members, another problem with this is it's also tied to inflation. So it sounds good that it's $12.50 an hour, but within 5 years of this going into law, we would be at $15 an hour. And within 10 years, so the year 2030, we're going to be at almost $20 an hour for minimum wage. Just under $20 an hour. That is over 115% increase from where labor is now. And to stand up here and think there won't be some unintended consequences as a result of that, I won't stand up here and say the sky will fall, all businesses will close, and every person's going to get laid off, because that's not reality. That's not going to happen. But reality is people will get laid off. People will lose hours. So we talk about trying to help the most vulnerable and the least among us. You will put those people out of a job. Those people will no longer be employed. They will no longer be bringing home a paycheck. Putting this in the Constitution is not the right place for this to go. And I understand there might be some debate that, well, Representative Del Grosso doesn't know what in the world he's talking about. He's full of it. These guys trudged down there and brought up all of these unintended consequences. The sky is falling, and none of that's going to ever happen. Well, what if just by chance what we are actually saying is true? What if just, even if there's a small chance that that is true? Once this is in the Constitution, there's no going back. And that's what this does. This does not belong in our Constitution, and for the other reasons that I listed, I urge a no vote on this bill.
Is there further discussion on HCR 1001? Seeing none, members, this motion requires a 2/3 majority to pass. And Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Close the machine. With 33 ayes, 31 noes, and 1 excused, HCR 1001 dies for lack of a 2/3 majority. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1019.
House Bill 1019 by Representative Lundin, also Senator Woods, concerning prostitution by a minor in connection with minors who are victims of human trafficking.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1019 on third reading and final passage.
The question is the passage of House Bill 1019 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no discussion, Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Close the machine. With 64 ayes, no noes, and 1 excused, House Bill 1019 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1186.
House Bill 1186 by Representative Young, also Senator Stedman, concerning home and community-based services for children with autism in connection with making appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1186 on third reading and final passage.
The question is the passage of House Bill 1186 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no discussion, Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Close the machine. With 58 ayes, 6 noes, and 1 excused, House Bill 1186 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of Senate Bill 8.
Senate Bill 8 by Senator Roberts, also Representative Vigil, concerning the promotion of water conservation in the land use planning process in connection with making an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 8 on third reading and final passage.
The question is the passage of Senate Bill 8 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no discussion, Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Close the machine. With 39 ayes, 25 noes, and 1 excused, Senate Bill 8 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of Senate Bill 121.
Senate Bill 121 by Senator Crowder, also Representative Dorr, concerning the eligibility for financing provided by the Colorado Water Resources and Power Development Authority of a public water system that is not owned by a governmental agency.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 121 on third reading and final passage.
The question is the passage of Senate Bill 121 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no discussion, Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Close the machine. With 47 ayes, 17 noes, and 1 excused, Senate Bill 121 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1269.
House Bill 1269 by Representatives McCann and Janal, also Senator Grantham, concerning the transfer of persons who cannot be safely confined in their current facility between a Department of Corrections facility and facility operated by the Department of Human Services.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1269 on third reading and final passage.
The question is the passage of House Bill 1269 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no discussion, Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Close the machine. With 64 ayes, no noes, and 1 excused, House Bill 1269 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. We will now move to announcements and introductions, and I have one announcement. This is the official announcement that we will be off on Friday. I think you all know that, for spring and for Easter and for Passover. So, Representative Primavera.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. For members of Public Health Care and Human Services, pay attention so you know where to go. We'll be meeting at 1:30. Our change of room is to room 112 to accommodate some people with disabilities.
Further announcements and introductions. Seeing none, Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to lay over the balance of the calendar until tomorrow, April 1st.
The motion is to lay over the balance of the calendar until tomorrow, April 1st. See no objection, so ordered. Madam Majority Leader, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I'm just trying not to fall off my stool here, so, you know. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the House stand in recess until later today at 1 p.m.
The motion is to stand in recess until today at 1 p.m. Seeing no objection, we're in recess till 1 p.m. this afternoon.